Imagine this. You've spent years building an empire, sacrificing relationships, sleep, and even your own sense of self to reach the pinnacle of success. You've traveled the world, closed billion-dollar deals, and become a name that commands respect and fear. But when you finally return home, exhausted and longing for the comfort of your own bed, you find something that shatters your world into a million pieces. There, in the place where you should feel safest, lies the one person you never expected to betray you. Your assistant. The person who knew your secrets, your schedule, your weaknesses. The person you trusted implicitly. And they're not alone. This is where our story begins, a tale of power, betrayal, and secrets that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you've ever wondered how far someone will go to protect their empire, or what happens when the line between loyalty and deception blurs, you're in the right place. Because today, we're diving deep into a story that will make you question everything you think you know about trust, ambition, and the price of success. But before we get into the heart of the mystery, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like someone close to you was hiding something? That gut feeling that something just isn't right, even if you can't put your finger on it? That's exactly where our protagonist finds himself. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll not only understand what drove him to the edge, you'll also get the answers you've been searching for. The kind of answers that make you rethink every relationship in your life. Now, let's set the stage. Our story revolves around two key characters: the business magnate, a man who has everything but feels nothing, and his assistant, the seemingly loyal confidant who knows where all the bodies are buried literally. The themes here are universal: ambition, trust, betrayal, and the lengths people will go to protect what they've built. But there's also a deeper layer, a psychological undercurrent that will make you question your own relationships. How well do you really know the people closest to you? What would you do if you discovered they were hiding something life-shattering? As we peel back the layers of this story, you'll notice something interesting. This isn't just about a wealthy man and his assistant. It's about the human condition. It's about the masks we wear, the lies we tell, and the secrets we keep even from ourselves. And that's why this story will resonate with you, no matter who you are or where you come from. Because at some point, we've all felt the sting of betrayal. We've all wondered if we can truly trust the people in our lives. And we've all asked ourselves, what would I do if I were in their shoes? But here's the thing, this story isn't just about the characters. It's about you. Yes, you. The person watching this video right now. Because as we unravel the mystery, you'll find yourself drawn into the narrative, questioning every twist and turn, and maybe even seeing a little bit of yourself in the characters. That's the power of a great story. It doesn't just entertain, it connects. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So let's talk about the tone of this story. It's dark, it's intense, and it's dripping with suspense. But it's also deeply human. This isn't a story about superheroes or villains. It's about flawed, complex individuals who make mistakes, who hurt each other, and who are trying to navigate a world that doesn't always make sense. And that's what makes it so compelling. Because at its core, this is a story about us. About the choices we make, the secrets we keep, and the consequences we face. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay? This sounds interesting. But where's the mystery? What's the big reveal? And that's where I'm going to leave you hanging just for a moment. Because here's the thing, the real mystery isn't just what happened in that bedroom. It's why it happened. What drove the assistant to betray the magnate? What secrets are lurking beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect relationship? And most importantly, what happens next? But don't worry, you're not going to be left in the dark for long. Because in this video, we're going to uncover every secret, expose every lie, and reveal the truth behind this shocking betrayal. And trust me, the truth is more twisted than you could ever imagine. So if you're ready to dive into a story that will keep you guessing until the very end, hit that play button and let's get started. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about power, ambition, and the lengths people will go to protect what's theirs. And by the end of it, you'll have the answers you've been searching for. The kind of answers that change everything. But before we go any further, let me ask you one more question. Are you ready to uncover the truth? Because once you do, there's no going back. End of introduction on a cliffhanger. Stay tuned because the real story is just beginning. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. To truly understand the gravity of what unfolded that night, we need to rewind the clock and step into the shoes of our protagonist, Alexander Kane. A self-made billionaire with a reputation as cold and unyielding as the steel he once sold, Alexander was a man who had clawed his way to the top from nothing. Born into poverty in a small Midwestern town, he had learned early on that the world was a brutal place. And if you wanted to survive, you had to be even more brutal. His rise to power was the stuff of legends, a rags-to-riches story that inspired countless entrepreneurs and instilled fear in his competitors. But behind the tailored suits, the private jets, and the sprawling estates, there was a man who had sacrificed everything for success. His marriages had crumbled. His children were strangers, and his closest confidants were employees who knew better than to cross him. Yet, despite his wealth and influence, Alexander was a man haunted by his past, a man who had built walls so high that no one could ever truly reach him. Enter Evelyn Hart, his personal assistant of 7 years. Evelyn wasn't just an employee, she was the glue that held Alexander's empire together. She managed his schedule, handled his most sensitive affairs, and knew the intimate details of his life, both professional and personal. To the outside world, Evelyn was the epitome of loyalty, a woman who had dedicated her life to serving one of the most powerful men in the world. But beneath her polished exterior and unwavering professionalism, there was a complexity that few could see. Evelyn had her own reasons for staying by Alexander's side, reasons that went beyond a paycheck or a title. She had grown up in the shadow of her father's failed business, a man who had lost everything to corporate greed. Working for Alexander wasn't just a job for Evelyn, it was a mission. She wanted to understand the mind of a man who could destroy lives with a single signature, a man who seemed to have no conscience. But as the years went by, the lines between professional curiosity and personal entanglement began to blur. The night Alexander returned home was supposed to be like any other. He had just closed a deal that would cement his legacy as one of the most influential figures in the tech industry. The negotiations had been grueling, the stakes higher than ever, and Alexander was exhausted. All he wanted was to collapse into his bed and forget the world for a few hours. But as he stepped into his penthouse, something felt off. The air was heavy, the silence unnerving. And then he saw the faint glow of light coming from his bedroom. His heart raced as he approached, his mind racing through 1,000 possibilities. Was it an intruder? A mistake? Or something far more sinister? What he found when he opened the door would change everything. Evelyn was in his bed, but she wasn't alone. Beside her was a man Alexander had never seen before, a man who looked just as shocked to see him as Alexander was to see them. The scene was surreal, almost cinematic in its intensity. Evelyn's face went pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and guilt. The man beside her scrambled to his feet, muttering apologies that fell on deaf ears. Alexander stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a violation of the one space he considered sacred. His bedroom was his sanctuary, the one place where he could let his guard down. And now, it had been invaded by the one person he thought he could trust. But as the initial shock began to wear off, questions started to surface. Why was Evelyn here? Who was this man? And what did they want? As the days turned into weeks, the mystery only deepened. Alexander's initial anger gave way to a gnawing sense of unease. He began to notice things he had overlooked before: small inconsistencies in Evelyn's behavior, unexplained absences, cryptic phone calls. It was as if the woman he thought he knew had been a carefully constructed facade, and now the mask was slipping. But Evelyn wasn't the only one with secrets. Alexander had his own skeletons. buried so deep that even he had forgotten about them. There were deals he had made, people he had crossed, and enemies who had sworn revenge. Could this be part of a larger plan? Was Evelyn working with someone to bring him down? Or was there something else at play? Something even more dangerous? Meanwhile, Evelyn's perspective adds another layer to the story. To her, Alexander wasn't just a boss. He was a puzzle she had been trying to solve for years. She had seen the man behind the empire, the glimpses of vulnerability that he tried so hard to hide. But she had also seen the darkness, the ruthlessness that made him a force to be reckoned with. Her relationship with him was complicated, a delicate balance of admiration and fear. And then there was the man in the bed, a journalist named Daniel Carter, who had been investigating Alexander for months. Daniel had approached Evelyn with a proposition: help him expose Alexander's corruption, and she could finally break free from his shadow. But as the lines between ally and enemy blurred, Evelyn found herself questioning her own motives. Was she doing this for justice, for revenge, or for something else entirely? The subplots weave together to create a tapestry of intrigue and suspense. There's the shadowy figure watching from the sidelines, a rival CEO with a personal vendetta against Alexander. There's the mysterious phone call Evelyn received the night before Alexander's return, a voice on the other end warning her that time was running out. And then there's the envelope Daniel had given her, filled with documents that could destroy Alexander's empire or save it. Each piece of the puzzle raises more questions than answers, pulling the viewer deeper into the story. As the tension builds, the stakes become clear. This isn't just about a betrayal, it's about power, control, and the lengths people will go to protect their secrets. Alexander's empire is on the line, but so is his humanity. Evelyn's loyalty is being tested, but so is her conscience. And Daniel's investigation could either expose the truth or destroy everyone involved. The narrative is a roller coaster of emotions, a psychological thriller that keeps you guessing at every turn. But here's the thing, we're just scratching the surface. The deeper we go, the more twisted the story becomes. What started as a simple betrayal is now a web of lies, manipulation, and hidden agendas. And as the pieces of the puzzle start to come together, one thing becomes clear: no one is who they seem. Not Alexander. Not Evelyn. Not even Daniel. So, what happens next? That's the question that will keep you hooked. Because in a world where trust is a luxury and betrayal is a weapon, the only thing you can count on is that nothing is as it seems. And as the story unfolds, you'll find yourself questioning everything: your assumptions, your loyalties, and even your own sense of right and wrong. But don't worry, we're not done yet. The best is yet to come. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Because when the truth finally comes out, it will change everything. Section on a cliffhanger. Stay tuned, because the stakes are about to get even higher. And in a game where everyone has something to lose, the only question is, who will come out on top? As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Alexander and Evelyn reached a boiling point. The once seamless partnership had fractured into a battlefield of suspicion and silence. Alexander, ever the strategist, began to dig deeper into Evelyn's life, determined to uncover the truth behind her betrayal. He hired a private investigator, a man with a reputation for uncovering secrets that others couldn't or wouldn't find. What the investigator uncovered was both shocking and perplexing. Evelyn had been making regular deposits into an offshore account, sums of money that far exceeded her salary. The transactions were meticulously hidden, but they pointed to a larger conspiracy, one that involved more than just a personal betrayal. Alexander's mind raced with possibilities. Was Evelyn being blackmailed? Was she working for a rival? Or was she orchestrating something far more dangerous? Meanwhile, Evelyn found herself caught in a web of her own making. The journalist, Daniel Carter, had gone silent, leaving her with more questions than answers. The documents he had given her were a ticking time bomb, filled with evidence of Alexander's illegal dealings, evidence that could destroy him but also implicate her. She had always known that working for Alexander came with risks, but she had never imagined the stakes would be this high. The more she tried to untangle the mess, the more she realized that she was in over her head. The phone calls from the mysterious voice had stopped, but the sense of impending doom lingered. She began to notice subtle changes in her surroundings: a car parked outside her apartment for hours, a stranger following her to work, an envelope left on her desk with no return address. It was as if someone was watching her every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. The subplots began to converge in unexpected ways. The rival CEO Victor Langston emerged from the shadows, his presence adding a new layer of complexity to the story. Victor had a history with Alexander, one that went beyond business rivalry. Years ago, Alexander had orchestrated a hostile takeover that destroyed Victor's company and left him bankrupt. Victor had sworn revenge, and now it seemed he was making his move. But Victor wasn't acting alone. He had allies in high places, people who had their own reasons for her weren't just evidence of Alexander's corruption. They were a blueprint for the syndicate's next move, a move that would destabilize global markets and consolidate their power. Evelyn knew she had to act fast, but she also knew she couldn't do it alone. Against her better judgment, she reached out to Alexander, hoping that their shared history and mutual distrust of the syndicate would be enough to forge an uneasy alliance. The meeting between Alexander and Evelyn was tense, charged with unspoken accusations and lingering betrayal. But as they laid their cards on the table, a fragile trust began to form. Alexander revealed the video and his suspicions about the syndicate's involvement, while Evelyn shared the documents and Daniel's undercover investigation. Together, they realized that the only way to stop the syndicate was to expose them, but doing so would require risking everything. Alexander would have to reveal his own dark past, and Evelyn would have to confront the consequences of her actions. It was a gamble, but it was the only move they had left. The climax unfolded at a high-stakes gala hosted by Victor Langston, an event attended by the world's most powerful elites. Alexander and Evelyn arrived separately, each playing their part in a carefully orchestrated plan. Alexander, ever the master manipulator, used his influence to gain access to Victor's inner circle, while Evelyn worked behind the scenes to plant the evidence they needed to expose the syndicate. But as the night wore on, the tension became unbearable. Every glance, every whispered conversation felt like a potential trap. The turning point came when Daniel Carter made an unexpected appearance. He had been in hiding since his investigation had been compromised, but now he was ready to finish what he had started. With Evelyn's help, he accessed Victor's private server, downloading incriminating files that detailed the syndicate's operations. But just as they were about to leave, Victor confronted them, his calm demeanor masking a dangerous rage. The confrontation escalated quickly, with Victor revealing his own ties to the syndicate and his role in orchestrating Alexander's downfall. It was a moment of shocking clarity as the pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. In a desperate bid to escape, Evelyn and Daniel triggered a fire alarm, causing chaos to erupt throughout the gala. Amid the confusion, they managed to slip away, but not before Evelyn made a split-second decision that would change everything. She handed the evidence to a trusted journalist, ensuring that the syndicate's secrets would be exposed to the world no matter what happened to her. The fallout was immediate and explosive. The evidence went viral, sparking investigations, arrests, and a global reckoning for the syndicate. Alexander, though implicated in some of the revelations, used his influence to strike a deal with authorities, offering his full cooperation in exchange for immunity. Victor Langston was arrested, his empire crumbling overnight. And Evelyn, though hailed as a whistleblower, chose to disappear, leaving behind a life that had become too dangerous to navigate. But the final twist came in the form of a letter, delivered to Alexander weeks after the dust had settled. It was from Evelyn, and in it, she revealed the truth about her motivations. She hadn't just been trying to expose the syndicate, she had been trying to protect her younger brother, who had been blackmailed into working for them. Her actions, though seemingly treacherous, had been driven by a desperate desire to save the only family she had left. Alexander, reading the letter in the quiet of his penthouse, felt a pang of something he hadn't felt in years: remorse. The story ends with Alexander standing on the balcony of his penthouse, the city lights stretching out before him. His empire, though damaged, still stood. But the cost of his success had never been clearer. He had sacrificed relationships, trust, and even his own humanity to reach the top. And now, as he looked out at the world he had once ruled, he realized that power without purpose was meaningless. The final scene shifts to Evelyn, now living under a new identity in a small coastal town. She watches the news of the syndicate's downfall with a mixture of relief and sadness. She had lost everything: her career, her home, her sense of self, but she had gained something far more valuable: freedom. As she walks along the beach, the waves crashing at her feet, she allows herself to hope for the first time in years. The story's resolution is both satisfying and thought-provoking, leaving the audience with a sense of closure, but also a lingering question: what is the true cost of power? The character's journeys: Alexander's reckoning with his past, Evelyn's sacrifice for her family, and Daniel's relentless pursuit of the truth serve as a powerful reminder that every choice has consequences, and that, wanting Alexander gone, the private investigator's report hinted at a larger network, a cabal of powerful individuals who were working together to bring Alexander down. The question was, where did Evelyn fit into all of this? Was she a pawn in Victor's game, or was she playing a game of her own? The unexpected twist came one stormy night when Alexander received a package at his penthouse. Inside was a USB drive containing a video. The footage was grainy, but the content was unmistakable. It showed Evelyn meeting with Victor in a dimly lit restaurant, their conversation hushed but intense. Alexander's blood ran cold as he watched. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a conspiracy. But as he replayed the video, something caught his eye: a detail that changed everything. In the background, barely visible, was Daniel Carter, the journalist. He was filming the meeting, his expression one of grim determination. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, but the picture they formed was more terrifying than Alexander could have imagined. Evelyn, unaware of the video, was grappling with her own demons. She had started to piece together the truth about Daniel's investigation, and it was far more sinister than she had anticipated. The documents he had given her were part of a larger plan, one that involved not just Alexander but also Victor and a shadowy organization known only as the Syndicate. The Syndicate was a network of powerful individuals who manipulated global markets, orchestrated corporate takeovers, and eliminated anyone who stood in their way. Daniel had been working undercover, trying to expose them, but he had gotten too close. Now, Evelyn was caught in the crossfire, her life hanging in the balance. The stakes had never been higher. Alexander's empire was under threat, but so was his life. Evelyn's loyalty was being tested in ways she had never imagined. And Daniel's investigation had put him in the crosshairs of some of the most dangerous people in the world. The tension was palpable, the suspense unbearable. Every move, every decision, had consequences that rippled through the narrative, pulling the viewer deeper into the story. But just when it seemed like the story couldn't get any more intense, another twist emerged. The private investigator discovered a connection between Alexander's past and the Syndicate. Years ago, Alexander had made a deal with them, a deal that had helped him build his empire but had also bound him to them in ways he couldn't escape. The Syndicate had been pulling the strings all along, manipulating events to ensure Alexander remained under their control. The betrayal, the conspiracy, the video, it was all part of their plan. But why now? What had changed? And what did they want from him? As the story hurtles toward its climax, the lines between ally and enemy blur even further. Alexander, Evelyn, and Daniel are all pawns in a game much larger than they realized. The Syndicate's reach is vast, their influence limitless. But even they have weaknesses, and the key to unraveling their plan lies in the most unexpected place, a secret that Alexander has kept buried for decades, a secret that could destroy him or set him free. The narrative is a masterclass in suspense, a psychological thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat. The characters are complex, their motivations murky, and the stakes impossibly high. Every revelation raises more questions, every twist deepens the mystery. And as the story unfolds, one thing becomes clear: no one is safe. But don't worry, we're not done yet. The best and most shocking is yet to come. Because in a world where power is the ultimate currency and betrayal is the norm, the only thing you can count on is that nothing is as it seems. And when the final piece of the puzzle falls into place, it will change everything. End of section on a cliffhanger. Stay tuned because the climax is just around the corner. And in a game where everyone has something to lose, the only question is, who will survive? The storm that had been brewing for weeks finally broke, mirroring the chaos unfolding in Alexander's life. With the USB drive in hand and the private investigator's findings laid out before him, Alexander realized the gravity of the situation. The syndicate wasn't just a threat to his empire, they were a threat to his very existence. The video of Evelyn meeting Victor Langston was only the tip of the iceberg. The deeper he dug, the more he uncovered about the syndicate's involvement in his rise to power. They had funded his early ventures, manipulated his competitors, and even orchestrated the downfall of Victor's company years ago. But now they wanted something in return, something Alexander wasn't willing to give. Evelyn, meanwhile, was racing against time. She had finally pieced together the truth about Daniel Carter's investigation and the syndicate's role in everything. The documents Daniel had given. Redemption, though elusive, is always possible. The screen fades to black. The audience is left with a final message. In a world where power corrupts and betrayal is inevitable, the only thing that truly matters is what you're willing to fight for. It's a poignant ending, one that resonates long after the story is over, leaving viewers with a sense of awe and a renewed appreciation for the complexities of human nature. End of story. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story made you question the price of power or the meaning of loyalty, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales that keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, remember, the truth may be dangerous, but it's always worth fighting for.